For today's lesson, I am going to help you put your knowledge to practice. We are going to make this fun dishcloth with all this texture, and I'm going to show you how to read a pattern so that you can get this chevron or zigzag pattern that's on the front and this little hanging loop. I have put a link to the free pattern in the description box, and I want to teach you how to follow a pattern. I do recommend that you get these clear plastic sleeves and a dry erase marker. As a beginner, it's really easy to get lost in the pattern, and having a dry erase marker will help you check off your progress as you go. And of course, it just comes right off, so it's really helpful. On the front page of the pattern, you will see that you need approximately 60 to 75 yards of any size 4 worsted weight cotton, a 5mm hook or the size needed to obtain gauge, and we're going to go over gauge, scissors, yarn needle, and a tape measure. Here you'll see that the pattern is written in US terminology. There is a difference between us and the UK, so that's important to know. And then you need to familiarize yourself with these terms because some of them are abbreviations and some of them are symbols. And they will show up in the pattern and you need to know what they mean. So get familiar with the abbreviations so that when you encounter it in the pattern, you know what it means. On the second page, you will encounter the pattern notes, which just gives you some hints about what to expect. So here it says the beginning chains will not count as a stitch. So when you get to the end stitch count at each row, that's just letting you know that it's not counting those beginning chains. The raised texture is achieved by alternating stitches of differing height. The textured stitches are the posts of your treble crochet that are pushed forward when followed by the shorter single crochet. So it's just letting you know how the texture is created, and that just helps you understand when you're creating it that these little textured areas are actually the posts of the treble crochet that are pushed forward by using shorter stitches surrounding it. And then it also lets you know that there is a stitch symbol on page 3 to reference as you go along. If you remember, I have been teaching you the stitch abbreviations and universal symbols. So this is a stitch chart that uses those symbols. So if you remember, the X equals single crochet, and then the T with the 2 lines through it is the treble crochet. So as you're going along, this is row 1, stitch 1, and you would work your way this way, and then you would work your way this way for row 2. Then row 3 would go this way. So that's how it would work all the way up the dishcloth here. And it just kind of helps you visualize how the stitches are, and then that way you can keep track of what you're doing there. Some people find it a lot easier to follow than written patterns, and you could also use your dry erase marker to mark through as you go along so you never lose your spot. For the gauge section, I'm telling you that 8 single crochet and 8 rows equals 2 inches unblocked. What that just means is you're going to follow this little pattern to make a small swatch like this. And once you've made it, you are going to measure it to see if you have the same number of stitches and the same number of rows using the suggested hook size. So essentially you're going to make a row of 12 single crochet, and then you're going to make 12 rows of 12 single crochet. So once you have your swatch made, you're going to get this handy dandy gauge ruler here that also measures the hook sizes, which we did on the very first lesson, I believe. And then we're going to measure the number of stitches within this 2-inch window here. So here I'm showing you that I am counting the single crochet that's in this particular window, and I have 8 single crochet there. And then I'm showing you that there are 8 rows within this other window right here. If you don't have this tool, don't sweat it. You can also do this with a tape measure or a regular ruler. I do recommend a ruler as tape measures warp over time. And so essentially you're just going to place the ruler down and count how many stitches are within that 2-inch window. A lot of gauge swatches call for a 4-inch window, but for this particular pattern I just did 2 inches. And then, of course, you're going to line it up and measure how many rows are in that 2-inch window. If you have more rows and more stitches than mine, you need to go up a hook size, or your dishcloth will be much smaller than mine. If you have fewer rows and fewer stitches than mine, you need to go down a hook size, or yours will be much bigger. Gauge is not essential as this is a dishcloth. However, you need to understand how gauge works as you advance in your skills because for a lot of projects, gauge does matter. So in this section, I'm telling you the finished dishcloth is 8 inches by 9 inches, not blocked or laundered, and not including the hanging loop. So I'm showing you here that it's 8 inches by 9 inches when you're done. So I am going to be using this particular color so that you can see it on my screen. And I got this from Hobby Lobby, but you can use any 100% cotton yarn. And it has 120 yards, and so I only need 60 to 75 yards, so I could get 2 dishcloths out of this. And then here I start giving you the instructions. The dishcloth is worked in the row from the bottom up, adding the hanging loop last. So this helps you visualize how your project's going to take shape. So if you look at this one, I'm telling you that it's going to be worked in the row from side to side, from the bottom up, adding this hanging loop last. For row 1, you're going to chain 28 and then single crochet in the second chain from your hook and in each stitch across for a total of 27 single crochet. So you're going to start with a slip knot just like usual, and you're going to leave yourself a length of tail so that you can hide it later within your project. So just like before, we start with our slip knot and then you just chain 28 as you were instructed. Be sure that you're not making your stitches too tight. And of course, this will be after you do your gauge swatch to see what size hook you need to use in order to get the same size as me. Don't skip gauge. You need to practice doing it so that you understand how it works for later on in different projects, especially if you want to make wearables, because gauge is super important for wearables, but also so that you don't run out of yarn. So here I have a chain of 28, and as it says here, I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from my hook and in each stitch across. So you are going to flip it to where the back hump is facing you, and you're going to skip over that first chain stitch, and then you're going to make a single crochet in each chain stitch across. So I am going to do this off camera, so pause the video and I will meet you at the end of this row. So this is what row 1 should look like, just a row of 27 single crochet, and you can count the V's at the top to make sure that you have 27. Each step in this pattern is separated by a comma, and it is like that in most standard patterns. So as you see, there are a lot of commas here, and each comma represents a different step. So I said to chain 1 and turn and single crochet in the first 4 stitches. So now it says to make a treble crochet. And we just learned that in the last lesson, so you should be familiar with how a treble works. And then the next step says single crochet in the next 5 stitches followed by a treble. So you're going to single crochet in 5 stitches. And then your next stitch will be a treble crochet. I'm sure you noticed that there are brackets around that section. You're supposed to complete the brackets a total of 3 times. So essentially, we've done 1 time already, so we have 2 more times. So we're going to repeat the instructions that were within those brackets 2 more times. So that means single crochet in the next 5 stitches, followed by a treble. That was twice, so we need one more. So you're going to single crochet in 5 stitches followed by a treble. All right, now that we completed our third completion of those brackets, we are going to single crochet in the last 4 stitches. So you should have 4 stitches left, and you're going to put a single crochet in each of those 4 stitches. And this is what it should be looking like. If you flip it over, you should be able to see that texture that was created by those treble crochet. The stitch counts are located in those brackets at the end of the row, so I'm telling you here that you should have 4 trebles and 23 single crochet total. So you can count the treble very easily. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then of course count the V's at the top to make sure you have the right number of singles. So this is the second row I'm showing you here. So as you can see by this stitch graph here, or the stitch chart, there's 4 singles followed by a treble, then there's 5 singles followed by a treble, which is what was in those brackets, 5 singles followed by a treble, and this is just another way that you can check your work, and then 5 singles followed by a treble, and then 4 singles at the end. So that's just another way you can check your work, and you can mark through it as you go. My marker has died, so I'm not going to be able to use it. Most US written patterns do not have stitch charts like this, but most other countries do due to language barriers. So that's why I've been teaching you the standard abbreviations as well as the universal stitch symbols so that you can read all kinds of patterns. So here is row 3, and if you look at it, you can see that all the stitches of row 3 are single crochet. So this row, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to single crochet in each stitch across for a total of 27 singles. So I am going to go off camera for this, so I would pause the video. And when you are finished making row 3, I will meet you at the end. Now for row 4, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet in the first 3 stitches. Treble, single crochet, treble. So then it says single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Now I'm sure you noticed that those instructions are in brackets here. So we're supposed to repeat the brackets all the way to the end. So treble, single crochet in the next 3 stitches is our repeating pattern. So if you come to your stitch chart, you can see the pattern right there. So it's treble, single crochet, treble, followed by 3 singles. Treble, single crochet, treble, followed by 3 singles. So you're just going to repeat those instructions all the way across. So treble, single crochet, treble, then 3 single crochet. So this is what it should be looking like. And of course, you're going to want to stop and make sure that you have those treble crochet in the right place, and you're going to want to count your stitches. So there should be 8 trebles and 19 singles. So of course, the trebles are easy to count. Go ahead and make sure that you have 8. And if you look at the stitch chart, you can see that there should be 8 trebles there. So if you look at the next row, you can see that it's going to be all single crochet. So for row 5, chain 1, turn, single crochet in each stitch across. So I'm going to do this off camera, so pause the video and I will meet you at the end of row 5. So stop and make sure that you have 27 singles before moving on to row 6. So for row 6, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and then single crochet in the first 2 stitches. Now it says treble, single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Then it says to treble and then single crochet. There are brackets around these instructions here. So we're going to repeat brackets to the last stitch. So we're going to treble, single crochet in 3 stitches, then treble and single crochet in 1 stitch. Then you're going to repeat that. This one's a little bit harder to remember, so the stitch chart might really come in handy. So we're going to make a treble in the next stitch, put a single crochet in the next 3 stitches, put a treble in the next stitch, and a single crochet in the next. Then you're going to repeat that. There should be 1 stitch left. It says to single crochet in the last stitch. So when you get to the last stitch, you're just going to do 1 more single crochet. And this is what it should look like. The chevron pattern should be taking shape. And of course, you're going to want to stop and count and make sure that you have the right number of stitches. You should have 8 treble and 19 singles. The trebles should be very easy to count, and make sure they are in the right place. And if you check the chart here, you can verify that there are 8 trebles and where they should be. So for row 7, you're going to see that it's all single crochet. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and single crochet in each stitch across. I will be doing the rest of this row off camera, so go ahead and pause the video and I'll see you at the end of this row. So this is what it should look like. You should stop and make sure that you have 27 stitches. Then for row 8, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and then single crochet in the first stitch followed by a treble in the next stitch. So we're going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches followed by a treble. Those instructions were in brackets. You're going to repeat the brackets to the very last stitch. So we're going to single crochet 5 and then treble. And you can see that here, whenever you go to look at the stitch chart, there should be 5 singles followed by a treble. So you're just going to repeat this pattern all the way until you get to the last stitch, where we'll put a single crochet. And as mentioned in the pattern, you're going to make a single crochet in the last stitch. So this is what it should be looking like. Our chevron should be complete. We've got one more row. Make sure you have 5 trebles and 22 singles before moving on. And then of course for row 9, you can see that it's going to be a row of all singles. So we're going to chain 1 and turn and single crochet in each stitch across. So I will be doing this off camera. I'll meet you at the end of this row. So here we have all the rows complete that are listed here. So we're going to complete rows 2 through 9 a total of 4 times. So when we complete row 33, we're going to make that hanging loop, and then we're not going to worry about that until we're done with row 33. But you're just going to repeat rows 2 through 9 3 more times, essentially. So you're going to come up here and start at row 2 and work your way down to row 9, and then you're going to come back up to row 2 and work your way back to row 9. You're going to do that 3 more times. Your dry erase marker will come in handy when repeating rows because you can place a check mark each time you finish a row to keep track of where you are. And then of course, same with the stitch chart. You can also just follow this all the way up and mark a line through it with your dry erase marker as you go along. So this should show you exactly what you're going to be doing. So for row 33, it's all single crochet, so our last row will be a row of singles, and then we're going to add that hanging loop at the top. And so go ahead and repeat rows 2 through 9 3 more times, okay? For a total of 4 zigzags all the way up. And I will meet you at the end of row 33. So here is what your piece should be looking like after completing 33 rows of the pattern. Now we are going to make our hanging loop, and I'm telling you here to chain 12. So once you have a chain of 12, it says here that we're going to slip stitch in the front loop only and in the first bar of the last single crochet made. So here's the back loop and here's the front loop. So there's the loop that it's talking about, that front loop. And then the first bar is talking about the bar of the single crochet post. So if you remember when we went over the anatomy of the stitch, I talked to you about it having 2 vertical bars. So you're going to go through the front loop only and that first bar. So this is where you're going to place your hook to make your slip stitch. And if you remember, a slip stitch is just yarn over and draw through everything. And that's your hanging loop. Now it says to fasten off, which means to cut your yarn, and then you're going to chain 1, but as you pull it through, you're going to pull it all the way through, and that is going to allow you to knot off your piece. So that created a knot, and you've got these tails to contend with, and I tell you to weave them in really well. So we're going to weave in these tails to hide them so that they don't come loose when they get washed. And you know, washcloths get washed a lot, and you don't want the tails to come loose in the wash. So I don't normally put this on camera, but because you're beginners, I want to show you how I personally weave in my tails, especially when it comes to weaving them in really well. So I am going through the posts of the single crochet and probably through some of the treble. It's hard for me to explain. But you're only going through the back layer. You're not taking your needle through to the front. So at any given time, your needle should never poke through to the front. I'm showing you here, it's not showing through to the other side because you really don't want to weave in your tails through the front of your work. And I don't normally weave it in quite so much, but like I said, this is a washcloth. It's going to go through the wash quite a bit. If you gift it, you really don't want people to think that it's falling apart and throw it in the trash. So weave it in really, really well. And then once you've woven it in really good, you're going to cut the excess off. And of course, you're just going to repeat it to the other tail. And once you do that, you are done. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson today. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching.